It's another edition of Nomad Capitalist, and for a decade here at Nomad Capitalist, we've been telling Western citizens to seek greener pastures and go where you're treated best. The last couple of years have woken up a lot of Westerners to the idea that they need a backup plan. Today, I'm going to tell you when you should pull the trigger on that backup plan. I'm Andrew Henderson. This is Nomad Capitalist. Whoa. And this is where we talk about the personal side of the nomad capitalist lifestyle beyond lowering your taxes, having second passports, investing overseas. We talk about the mindset of a nomad capitalist. And I want to talk about how to know when you should go overseas because, as you know, I've been studying the idea since I was about 12 or 13 years old around the dining room table that the Western world is in a state of flux and it's headed in the wrong direction. That's been principles that have guided for my entire adult life. And for a decade here at Nomad Capitalist, we've been sharing those principles. We've been sharing studies. We've been sharing with you that the U.S. passport is the 41st best in the world, according to actual statistics. We've been sharing with you that countries like the U.S. and Canada are declining in economic freedom. We've been sharing with you how they're freezing your bank accounts, taking your money, raising your taxes, calling you evil for starting a business. These things should encourage any Westerner that there are greener pastures out there where you can keep more of your money and live in a world of sanity. But it's been the last couple of years when more Westerners are waking up, and not just the ones who want to go and live in a place where they can reduce their tax rate. We've helped those folks for years. What we've been helping for the last couple of years in particular is more people who want a backup plan. They're not ready to move out of the US or Canada or Australia or their European country, but they want to know that they can when the time comes. They want to know they have another passport, another residence, another home, money in other countries. They want to be diversified because they can't trust their government anymore the way they thought they could just a year, 2 years, or 3 years ago. And so what that once again brings up is a whole crop of folks that we see who aren't really sure what they want to do. And so before you move to escape Joe Biden or escape Justin Trudeau, I want you to answer this question. Are you one election away from restoring your confidence in your country? If the answer is yes, then you may not be ready for a plan B, because here's the nature of a plan B. It's an insurance policy. For a long time here at Nomad Capitalist, we've helped folks who wanted a plan A. They have a business, they're paying $1 million a year in tax. They know if they move from Florida to Dubai, they can structure that business properly. They can pay $200,000 potentially in tax. And so now they've just saved $800,000. That's a pretty good deal. If it costs them $50,000 or $100,000, even $200,000 to set that up, shouldn't cost anywhere near that. But if it cost them any of those numbers, they would get a pretty fast ROI. It's a no-brainer. But what happens when you're saying, I just want to get a second passport? Suddenly you see people, even who have $20 or $50 million, saying, I don't know, $200,000 sounds like a lot of money. I'm sure it's fine. And so I go back to the question of, do you think things are one election from improving in your own country? Now, it's not my job to answer that for you, but I think if the answer is, hey, if only Trump gets back in power, or if only we get rid of Trudeau, the whole world is back to normal, children are playing in the fields, it's an idyllic scene from yesteryear, and there's nothing more to worry about. I'm going to be honest. I run a business in this space, but you don't need a plan B. You need to go and vote. Now, I could tell you that in the United States, the largest retroactive tax in history was passed under a Republican. This, to me, is not Republicans versus Democrats. That's why some of you think that I'm a communist who hates Donald Trump, and others of you think I'm a Trump-worshipping authoritarian. I'm politically homeless in the U.S. It's part of why I cut my ties for good. I didn't know where I fit in there, because I believe that the trajectory of the country, especially a big country like the United States, is not going to simply turn on a dime the way a smaller country like Georgia did under our friend Mikhail Saakashvili. The way he turned that country around was something that you probably couldn't have done in the United States. You can't simply come in and slash the total number of taxes in your country from 21 to 5 or 6 in a huge country with the entrenched bureaucracy of the United States. You need to hit rock bottom first, and that's some time from happening. And so when people call our team and they get on the phone and they want to just complain about Justin Trudeau, one of the things that we'll ask is, how does that affect you? Right? Do you think that your bank account's going to be frozen? Some people say, yeah, I'm worried, right? And I'll tell you what, when I see bad things happening in countries, I'm worried as well. People ask me, well, then why do you put your money in emerging markets? Well, because not a lot of my money is in emerging markets. I make calculated bets with certain small percentages of my net worth. And if Cambodia totally falls apart tomorrow, I'm 1 or 1.5% poorer. If other countries' banks totally collapse, I'm 1% poorer. In the meantime, I've enjoyed much greater benefits than I would have investing or banking in other countries, and so I continue to do it. It's part of my diversification that no one country controls me. I have freedom. But yet, those steps require you to take an effort. And so what I've said for years is that you're not ready to do anything, let alone go offshore or build your plan B, until the pain of doing nothing exceeds the pain of doing something. I have spent about a decade going around the world, setting up bank accounts, setting up brokerage accounts, setting up other kind of investment accounts, buying properties for both my own personal lifestyle use, for rental, setting up all kinds of financial accounts, doing all kinds of international tax planning, both from the US, now in other countries. I've established multiple residences. I've gotten rid of a couple. I still maintain a number of them. I've obtained multiple citizenships. And again, I've invested in homes and funds and all kinds of different stuff around the world. I have friends and I have acquaintances and I have colleagues who say, I don't know how you did it because I pull my hair out just trying to open one bank account or get one residence. You must have an epic tolerance for bureaucracy. I built a team around me that knows how to help me do that, to where today I do very little of the admin work. When I want to go out and get a new residence permit, they have all my data, they fill out the forms, they handle it for me. But I had to undergo a lot of pain. And back a number of years ago when I decided I was going to get my first citizenship by investment in the Caribbean, and it was going to cost me $100,000 plus the fees, plus the hassle of time, and time spent gathering paperwork and explaining my global lifestyle, because I'm not just from one country at that point. I had to pause and think about it for a moment. And I had to say, is it worth me spending this $100,000? I've never looked back with regret on any of the decisions that I've made in terms of obtaining more options for myself. But at the time, obviously, whenever you're sending someone $100,000 as a donation that you're not going to get back, you want to pause and think about it. You want to make sure, am I doing the right thing? But I've continued to invest in myself to where now I have options all over the world. If one country does something that I don't like, I don't have to be part of that country anymore. I can physically move. I don't have to be their citizen. I hope it doesn't come to that. And quite frankly, I think I've built a life to where, my goal is not to be constantly renouncing citizenships, but I've built and I've brought countries into my life. I've brought institutions into my life where I believe they respect that, I, in many ways, want to be left alone. I want to be free. I want to hold on to more of my own money. I'm willing to pay a little something, but I'm not willing to pay millions of dollars a year for the same thing everyone else gets for $3,000 a year. And so you have to be, before you start doing this, in the same mindset. I understand that it seems uncomfortable to wade into the unknown. One of the things that we do here at Nomad Capitalist is try and make the unknown comfortable by listening to the whole person. When I hear people coming to me from someone who sold them a citizenship, very rarely do I hear anyone who has actually listened to about their needs as individuals. Because we are individuals and we don't want to do things we don't want to do, and we don't want to live a life that's uncomfortable. And so many people who come to me, we're not moving them into Cambodia. We're not moving money into Cambodia. We're not moving them physically to Nicaragua or to Serbia. To me, Serbia is perfectly normal and you can adjust to it very easily. And I adapt there quite easily when I go there. But if you have only lived in California your entire life, that may not be the ideal first step. But yet you still have to, no matter how you're going to dip a toe into going offshore. Again, whether it's a plan B, a backup plan, second citizenship, residence, something you keep in your back pocket, diversification, or whether you're actually moving overseas and taking the plunge of a plan A. You have to be convinced that it's worth the money, especially if there's not a tax benefit involved. And again, if you are just simply going to stay in the United States or in your home country, then getting a second citizenship is not going to have any tax benefits for you in almost any case. And so then it's an issue of what's the value of insurance. When I decided to get St. Lucia Citizenship a number of years ago as my first citizenship by investment in the Caribbean, I didn't entirely know what it would do for me other than it gave me more options. It turned out to have a tremendous ROI later, but I didn't know exactly how or what that ROI would be when I made the decision. It also gave me what I call ROP, return on peace, and I think that's very valuable. I was able to proceed with various plans and various things that I wanted to do, including ultimately detaching myself from the US for good, because I had that extra piece in my plan that was St. Lucia. And so it not only gave me benefits in many other ways, but it gave me a feeling that I was able to sleep at night. I'm comfortable, I have options. I think it's something that you develop as you get more and more into this international stuff. You'll want to have more and more options. But on the other hand, some Westerners are so used to believing that everything's perfect that there's a very superficial desire that they have to go offshore. This is to them some sort of masturbatory fantasy where their goal is just to complain about Biden, complain about Justin Trudeau, but not actually know how it affects them. You've got to, as they would say on Shark Tank, know your numbers. You've got to know how this affects you or how it could affect you. If you think a new tax could come into play in your country and that tax could cost you, let's say, $1 million of your wealth, as someone told us recently, what's the percentage chance that could happen? If the percentage chance is 50%, then on an actuarial level, that's a $500,000 certain loss. And so if you can spend less than $500,000 to protect against that, then you should. That's why we work with 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors, because they have so much to lose. And I think a lot of folks in the Western world right now, whether it's having their money taken, whether it's having their retirement accounts pushed into something else, who knows what could happen. In addition to wealth taxes, unrealized capital gains taxes, higher income tax rates, more restrictions, more regulations. I mean, this could cost some people millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars over the course of their lives, let alone just 1 year for some people. And so how do you protect against that? That's worth doing. But if you think everything's great, and this is only at a superficial level yet, you haven't felt it. Do you want to know who does feel it? Russians right now, for years Iranians, certainly people in Central America who actually have great passports and don't realize it just because they have so much difficulty going to the one country they want to go to, which is the US. There are lots of citizens around the world who feel like, hey, I need to invest. There are folks in emerging countries that are contributing half of their net worth just in the quest of getting second citizenship because they want a path out, they want travel, they want options. And for many Western citizens, listen, you're spoiled. I'm going to be honest. Now, should you feel badly about being successful? No. Should you feel badly that you were born in a Western country and that you have more perks and privileges? No, you shouldn't. But I do think that it is that kind of spoiled nature that you're going to see some people miss the boat. They're going to be stuck paying higher taxes. And we've already seen it in our history here at Nomad Capitalist, where people didn't heed my advice on having that second passport, and then the time came when they got stuck. And so I think that you need to connect with why you're interested in this stuff. And by the way, I'm happy to have you watch the channel all you want. But from my perspective, I like to devote my time to things that are helping me grow and to things that I'm focusing on. If you don't really want to go offshore, if this really is just kind of, as my friend once said, a romance novel to you, then I think coming to that conclusion sooner than later and being honest with yourself is a good idea. Go watch something else that you're actually motivated to watch and to act upon. We don't want to work with people here in our business who we can't get a benefit for. Now, we've decided that return on peace is valuable. We've decided that on an actuarial level, someone who has 5 or 10 or 20 or $50 million may very well lose more than the cost of getting residences and citizenships and bank accounts in money by simply staying put and doing nothing. But you've got to come to that same conclusion too. I can't want it more than you do, and I can't feel it more than you do. I read the tax journals. I read a lot of different resources that show me, in my opinion, where the world is going. They want to cancel your options. They want to take away golden visa options. They want to take away and bully citizenship by investment options. They want to take away all the readily available and readily marketed options that people are comfortable doing. Why? Why would the US want to take away your ability to have citizenship by investment in a Caribbean country that if you were only that citizen, you needed a visa to visit the US? Why would that bother them? Why would it bother them that your place of birth is listed on the passport? So if you're one of those nasty, terrible Iranians, everyone will want to know. And the banks you go to will say, oh, but you're still Iranian. Sorry, can't help you. If you're Russian, oh, sorry, you're Russian. Can't help you. What would be the reason why a country like the US would want to close that option down? My guess would be they don't want you to have options. So I see that being in the industry. I see it seeing people miss out on options where they wait too long and they come back, oh, sorry, that thing went up in price, or oh, sorry, that program closed. But if this is nothing but fantasy for you, then nobody can help you, right? You have to decide that the pain of not doing anything and simply watching your country continuing as it is going to be more painful than getting out and hiring Nomad Capitalist or doing it yourself or whatever it may be, investing in your options. I can tell you, even when I had a lot less money, investing in options was a top priority of mine. It was uncomfortable. I have dealt with a lot of anxiety over the years that I have tried to make sure that our team handles for our clients, because I don't want you to suffer the same anxiety that I have. And I think we're one of the only people in the industry that does that. But I have suffered a lot of anxiety as an actual consumer of this stuff, building my options. And now, you know what I feel like? I'm always R&Ding stuff. Just lost about 20,000 bucks recently R&Ding something that turned out to not work out. Our clients look at the benefit of knowing what didn't work out. But you know, I feel like I largely have the options put together. I feel like I'm pretty well covered. If something new comes up, I'll do it. If something changes, I'll adapt. But I have the infrastructure and the fortress in place because I've suffered. You don't have to suffer as much because of the trail that we blazed. But if you are not willing to spend any money and do anything, I think you've got to acknowledge that, you know, again, this is an area where there's some expense. If you want to save millions of dollars in taxes with offshore structures, no one's going to set that up for you for $1,000. If you want to go overseas and get second citizenship, it starts for one person in the Caribbean at $100,000 and a bunch of fees that add up, including fees no lawyer that you're going to call in the Caribbean is going to tell you about or even know about, but it's going to add up. And the fact that these countries that maybe some in the West look at them, oh, it's a banana republic. Yeah, well, they still have a valuable commodity. Citizenship in a often tax-free and in a tax-free country and in one that leaves you alone. That's worth something. It may offer a different kind of value than a US or Canadian passport, but it offers, in my mind, equal or even superior value for some people, especially wealthy people. And so that's pretty serious commitment. That's not the only way to get citizenship. We often help people reduce the costs and get other citizenships, but that's my point to you, is determine your commitment level, right? Before you're reaching out to us, before you're reaching out to anybody. I don't want you to waste your time, you know, investigating things that are, again, simply fantastical. And I think that there's some good questions to ask. If one politician being removed changes the whole picture, that's not only an issue with your country, that's just an issue with one crazy politician. I happen to think that countries elect politicians for a reason. I happen to think that policies continue for a reason. I happen to think that political momentum is an issue that outsurvives one politician being in power, that if Donald Trump is reelected president of the United States, that not only could there be, you know, further closure of options, that certainly I think could happen, and we've already seen it happen. But, you know, there will be policies that the Democrats want to put through in terms of raising your taxes, for example, that will continue past his tenure, and then it will eventually come to fruition. And you know what? If you got your second passport 5 years too early, are you going to regret it when the time comes that you need it? Or would you rather sit and know that you got it too late? Those are the things that you need to think about. And I can't tell you that you should move forward with a plan now. You've got to feel it, and it's got to be a pressure that, hey, if we do nothing, it could be even worse. That's what you need to consider. Don't stop now. We've got well over 1,000 more videos here on YouTube for you to watch and learn how to go where you're treated best. And if you want to work with Nomad Capitalist personally, go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply, learn about our unique, tried and true process, garnered over years of experience, and learn how you can become our client.